This is You Can Raise Great Kids. Isn't it time to have the relationship you've always wanted with your kids? One where you don't feel so emotionally out of control, and where you don't lie awake at night worrying about drugs, alcohol, and more. On this show, you'll learn how to shed your frustration and confusion and instead guide your kids and teens safely through the challenges of growing up with calm compassion instead of conflict. Let's get started and raise great kids. Episode 11.
Hi, welcome back to You Can Raise Great Kids. In today's show, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about parenting roles because we all play so many different roles in our family, and I want you to start to think about the roles that you play that are going really, really well and the ones that maybe could use a little bit more attention. So let's think about what are some of the examples. Maybe you have a role that's the cook and the chauffeur and the shopper, but maybe you also have a role where you're the cheerleader and you're a listener, and you're maybe a confidant. How about a ping pong player, a skier, a hiker? There are all these different roles that you play with your child. Maybe you're a homework helper. Maybe you're an advocate at school. Maybe you're just a great listener. Whatever your role is, think about what they are. What are so many of the roles that you play? And just go ahead and write them all down. Write down as many as you can think of. And then circle the ones that you think perhaps could use a little bit more attention. And what I mean by that is, what can you do a little bit better to help your child a little bit more? So circle all the ones that you think need a little bit more attention, and maybe put an X next to all the ones that you know you're great at. You know, you are a great ping pong player, or you are a great ball catcher, or whatever it is that you do. You are a great soccer coach. Or maybe you are a great cook and provider for your family, but maybe you need to be a better homework helper and a better listener. So identify which of your roles you're really, really great at and which are the ones that probably could use a little bit more attention. So now that you've identified all of those, I'm going to ask you to pick out two where you would like to spend a little time working on them. And then next to those two, write down, what are you going to do less of over the next week? What about that role are you going to do less of? So maybe if you decide that you need to work on your role of listener, maybe you will do less talking over the next week. Maybe you will do less judging or giving advice. And I've talked about this in other podcasts as well. So what are you going to do less of over the next week, and see what kind of results you get? And then also write down, what are you going to do more of? So instead of more talking, you're probably going to do more listening. You're going to do less talking and more listening. And maybe as part of that, maybe you need to do more looking in my child's eyes. Maybe I need to do less looking at my phone and more sitting next to my child on the couch to be a better listener. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is for you, but think about it. For these two roles that you need to put a little bit more attention to, what is it you're going to do more of and less of over the next week? And what's great about this is that you are taking responsibility for making some really positive change in your family. And I am sure that you will begin to see some results from this right away. You're taking responsibility for what you say, how you think, and how you feel. And this is really, really important, because your thoughts will absolutely run rampant if you don't put a little bit of a hook on them and say, I'm not going to think about that anymore. I'm going to think about something else. Because what you think becomes what you feel, and what you feel becomes what you do. And saying and speaking is part of what you do. So how can you also nurture your strongest role? So once you've talked about the roles that need a little bit of help, let's take a look at the one or two roles that you're already doing really, really well. And what can you do to make them even better? That's something that you can think about too. If you're already a great listener, think about the times when every once in a while you pull out your phone instead of listen. All right, so the next week, I'm never going to pull out my phone. Whatever it is, whatever that is that works for you, the great roles that you're already doing, you want to nurture those. You want to build those up and make more of them and make them even better, because, sometimes we're going to run into the places where we don't do such a good job. That's a role where I need some help maybe. But what I can do is I can kind of at least a little bit, make up for it by being great at this other role. And try to include your children and your spouse in making this other role better. And then, this is a great thing. Use this exercise at a family meeting. Have everybody write down the roles that they play in the family and go through this whole process of, obviously you can't do this with a 5 and 6-year-old, but if you've got slightly older children than that, they can come up with some ideas, help them, write them down, brainstorm together. Think about what are everybody's roles in the family. This is a great activity for a family meeting. And then have them think about what are the roles that need more attention. Pick 2. Or maybe for kids, they just pick 1. What are they going to do more of? What are they going to do less of? And then pick the 1 or 2 roles that they know they feel really confident in. They do them really, really well, and they're excited to do them. And then what can they do to nurture those roles and build them up so that they can increase their contribution to the family, and it will increase the bonding that you have with each other. So this is a really great activity. And then you can also turn this around and decide as a family, what patterns are we going to really support and nurture together, and what patterns are we going to shift and change. And because you want to have direction together as a family, you want to have goals as a family for being able to communicate better, bond together better, and just support each other more. So I hope that you got a lot of value out of this podcast, and I really hope that you will share it with your family and friends. You can reach out to me on my website at youcanraisegreatkids.com. I'd love to hear from you. And even better, if you can subscribe and leave a rating and review on iTunes, that would help a lot too. So thank you so much for being here today, and I'll see you next time.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/greatkids. Over 85,000 titles to choose from for your iPod or MP3 player. Thanks for tuning in to today's show, where you get the best strategies and tips for how to raise great kids with calm compassion instead of with conflict. If you would like a strategy session to figure out how to bridge the gap between where your family is and where you want to go, sign up at youcanraisegreatkids.com/workshop. We'll see you next time.